Hi, welcome to English at Work in Asia, job applications and job interviews, live Q&A session. Today we have with us Ms. Lauren Gilbert, yes, who is a talent solutions consultant at LinkedIn and is also an MVP, I hear.
That's correct.
Most valuable player, rock star player.
Yeah, had a very, very successful last few months, I'd like to say. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you guys have a rock star in front of us today. Lauren is from Australia, has studied in China, and is now based in Hong Kong, which I also hear is a complete new playing field for you and keeps you on your professional toes.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
good to hear that.
I don't know if I'd be sitting here doing this in Australia.
We'll call you up if you are there.
Yeah, thanks.
Lauren works closely with education, IT, and finance sectors and their respective HR managers here in Hong Kong. She helps them use social media recruitment strategies in order to connect with talented people like you. And as we covered in the course, applications are evolving, and that's why she's here with us today, to give you advice based on her global experience and how you can use LinkedIn to land the job that you want, whether it's in your home country or abroad. Of course, there's more to life than work, and outside of work, is interested in China, empowering gender diversity, starting her Women at LinkedIn initiative, and an occasional nice glass of Pinot Noir after a long day. So Lauren, thank you so much for coming here with us today and for being here. More importantly, for choosing to sit here with us instead of enjoying a nice Pinot Noir at this hour.
That's correct. It is right on the dot where I would perhaps be having a glass of wine on a Thursday. Well, but that aside, thank you so much for having me here today. This is a great opportunity to be able to present to the students in the course. So, as mentioned, my name is Lauren Gilbert. I am a talent solutions consultant working at LinkedIn, and I've been working at LinkedIn for about 3.5 years now in both our Sydney and recently in our Hong Kong office as of about just over a year ago. So in my role, I work with HR managers and recruitment professionals within organisations to be able to move their recruitment strategy towards LinkedIn and social media. So traditionally we see with recruitment, it's typically through job applicants or through recruitment agencies that individuals are getting roles. So now, because of the movement towards social media, more and more individuals are able to actually get their roles and get their job opportunities through the LinkedIn platform. So within my role, I work with these individuals or with these HR professionals to be able to take that shift and make that shift within the organisation, which can be pretty complex and pretty different to what they currently do. So that's what I'm doing today, but I've been asked as well to give a bit of background about myself. So if you haven't seen my LinkedIn profile, I'll give you a bit of a journey of what got me to where I'm sitting today. So my passion, as Bea mentioned, is really around China. So I can still recall 10 years ago when I landed in Beijing. I got off the plane with my then boyfriend and just thought, oh my goodness, there is just so much opportunity and drive within this country, and I so much want to be a part of it. So that really has driven my decisions, whether it's to do with my degree, which is around international business, majoring in Mandarin Chinese, whether it's to do with where I entered with the companies that I was working for there as well. So studied went back to university, studied at Sydney University, those courses, and then in my final year had the great opportunity to actually go back to Beijing and study there for a year Mandarin at Peking University. So then I came out of university, and as many of you, I understand, are graduates or about to be graduates from your courses, and it's kind of a scary time because you don't really have a clear direction as to where you can go, and there's some people that know exactly what they want to get into, and I can tell you right now I was definitely not one of those people, so I was really quite concerned, but I knew that I love China and I love business. Therefore, that's what I studied, what type of companies that I could get into that's going to allow me to continue that within my career. So I ended up getting a job through doing numerous job applications with IBM, with the graduate program. And I chose that organisation again because they have a presence in China. They're very international, and it was a great opportunity for me to try out different parts of the business through their graduate program. So my first 6 months, it was a rotational. My first 6 months was in the project management team. I very quickly realised I was they're going to be a project manager, and my boyfriend insisted I must definitely finish off some of the courses that I was doing around project management, and I actually just said, I cannot be bothered, I don't want to be certified as a PM, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not me. My second 6 months of the program, I went into marketing, and I started to get this sense that, marketing is a lot more creative. I was getting more exposure to clients, and also I started to understand the value of sales. And the value of sales, particularly for technology, in driving organisations. So it was through that exposure I actually fell into my sales role for the second half of my duration at IBM. And I still recall, actually, in preparation for today, I had to really delve up some memories to think about, the interviews and recruitment processes that I went through. I still recall, just as I was in that IBM graduate program, that the recruiter said to me, you should be in sales. I was like, there is no way I'm going to be a car salesperson. There is no way. So she was right, and I'm still doing that today. But I had to go through that process to kind of figure out what I want to do. And again, this may not be something that I do for the rest of my career either. So there is that opportunity to transition. So thinking about, I was in IBM for 2 years, and then people started to leave and go to Google and these kind of cool young companies, and I thought, okay, well, IBM's been great, I've gotten some great training, etc., but now I'm ready to, get out of the fold and start to explore something new. So knowing that I liked sales and IT, and I've still got this passion about China, I thought, okay, what's a company that's more young, that's growing more quickly? And I went onto a website, and this is a tip for yourselves on the session today. I went onto a website called Glassdoor. Now, Glassdoor is like is a website that kind of gives feedback and reviews by employees or previous employees about working at certain companies. So I quickly found out that a great company to work for was an organisation called Salesforce, and in particular for salespeople, of course. So I entered to Salesforce. I was there for about only 8 or 9 months. And I was, to be honest, pretty unhappy because I just wasn't getting the same, challenge that I was getting out of my role at IBM. So, they always say the grass is greener on the other side. It was kind of that experience for me. Not that there's anything wrong with Salesforce, of course, but just the role that I was doing. So interestingly, my movement to my next role, which was LinkedIn, was very different. So my dad had always said to me, you need to spend at least 2 years within each of your organisations. You need to do your time. Employers do not seeing people that jump around, and particularly you've only done 2.5 years of work experience, so you need to stay there. And I really had that within my mind. So anyway, being a sales professional in Salesforce, I needed to make sure that I had a great LinkedIn profile, because the main motivation was that clients or potential clients were clicking on my profile when I was sending the messages I was calling them. So because of that, I had a wealth of information on there that was geared towards the fact that clients were looking at me. And with that information, one day I received an email or a message, a LinkedIn profile, from a man by the name of Kunal Malhotra, and he is the internal recruiter at LinkedIn. So thinking, I wasn't actively looking for a job because Dad had said to me I can't do that, but I was open to new job opportunities. And Kunal was able to find me because of what was on my LinkedIn profile, and he was looking for an exact type of person of my background. He said, look, Lauren, I saw your profile, gave me a whole lot of flattery, which I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. LinkedIn's doing these amazing things. We've got a role for an account executive. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, because if I was to stay in Salesforce, it was going to take me 2 years to get to this position. So I was like, amazing. He said, would love to have a conversation with you. And I was like, in a heartbeat, yeah, love to speak with you further. So he opened up that door that I didn't even know that existed. And since then moved to LinkedIn, and I found out more about the job opportunity, found out what I was going to sell, and then I found out what I was going to sell was actually what he used to recruit me. So that was incredibly powerful, and I was like convinced, because I could see that this was really working, and it was in a way that I didn't even know recruiters and HR professionals were utilising. So fast forward 2.5 years later, I said I need to go to China. I've done my time. I've got all this experience. It may not be perfect, but I really want to get to China. Knew that we had an office here in Hong Kong, and through a lot of persistence and perseverance, it was not easy, even though it was internally within the company, I was able to land this opportunity. And what I love about the role today is that a lot of people, especially in Hong Kong and China, aren't aware of this as much as they are within Australia, where we really were educating HR professionals to the point where it became the norm. Now that's what I'm doing here in Hong Kong today. So that's my background.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to take a short pause. And thank you so much, Lauren, for the sharing. I hope that will help you think of more follow-up questions to ask along the way. But we're going to go ahead and start with the questions that we already have received from you guys on the edX platform. So I'm going to go ahead and kickstart this with the LinkedIn question. So how is LinkedIn used in the job application process by users? And how is LinkedIn used by HR these days?
Cool. Okay. So from users, if they're pretty savvy and they understand, like myself now, that if I have a well-formulated profile with keywords and my experience and all of that, then it's going to be very easy for recruiters to find me. That's not the main intention, but it's good to know what job opportunities are out there if you're not necessarily openly looking for them, because I don't have the time to do that. But for somebody who maybe is not so aware of that, the typical ways that you'd be using LinkedIn as a job seeker is firstly around the jobs. So there are actually jobs listed on LinkedIn. And jobs on LinkedIn are very different to typical job boards in the way that they actually match with the LinkedIn profile that's most relevant. So say for an example, a communications manager in Australia with maybe 1 to 2 years of experience will see similar types of positions when they log onto LinkedIn. In the same capacity, that individual can actually log into the job section and seek out job opportunities there. The powerful thing further about jobs is you can actually see who's posted the job. So the poster will actually include their LinkedIn profile and open up the opportunity for you to actually message that person directly. So again, another touch point and another way for you to be able to, be ahead of the game. Other ways that applicants use LinkedIn is to research the company. So research the company, and that might be about, the type of culture, what's the business offerings, what's the latest news, because companies are using that to provide status updates around their news. Who works there, employees that are attached to the company page. You can see maybe people that you have a second-degree connection, and what that means is that you know somebody in common. So you could actually use that person that you have in common to be able to say, hey, can you get me an introduction to this person? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the organisation. And then finally, around groups. So groups can be set up for common interests, and more often than not, those groups are around job opportunities again. So for an individual, they might be interested, they're sitting in Spain at the moment, might be interested in finding out about job opportunities in Hong Kong. There are actually groups that are created that facilitate that interaction between the job applicants and the job opportunities itself. So it's kind of like a community. So that's on the job applicant front. So on HR are becoming increasingly aware of the fact that people are going onto LinkedIn, whether active or what we call passive. So passive is open to job opportunities but not necessarily looking for them. So knowing this level of behaviour, they're trying to match their job opportunities with those LinkedIn members, or with those most relevant LinkedIn members. So again, the ways that they can go about doing that is through advertising those jobs, knowing that those most relevant jobs are going to go connect with the most relevant candidates. And again, this is coming down to whether your LinkedIn profile has been written up as well. So you really need to make sure that you have all that information on there to ensure that those most relevant jobs are going to be connecting with you. Similarly, I know I talk a little bit about this term passive candidates. So passive candidates, again, those people that aren't necessarily seeking out roles, but they happen to find a job opportunity that matches to them, or they get a message about a job, they're going to start to research the company. So what HR professionals are now doing is they're working very closely with marketing to be able to develop what's called a careers page and their employment brand. So things like, their culture, employee testimonials, videos, essentially information is to say, come and work for us because we're looking for really good people that are like you, that might not be looking but are open to it. So finally, and the one that many people are not aware of. I gave the example of Kanal. Kanal was actually using, to find me, he was using a tool that gives him full access to everybody in the world on LinkedIn. So he's not in any way restricted by people he's connected with, because we have those degrees of connection that we restrict who we can see. He can see everyone in the world, and he can seek out, I know I gave the example of communication manager with 1 to 2 years of experience in Sydney, because in fact my friend also got a job in that way. And so she had on her LinkedIn profile, she was seeking new job opportunities, and that HR professional had gone in and looked for somebody of her background, and then they also included the phrase seeking new job opportunities. And when she updated her profile, they knew straight away using the tools, and they were able to go straight to her. So it's very, very clever. That's what they're doing in the background.
So you can get a job within a day of updating your profile?
Potentially. I hope so. Well, you're in a better situation if you have a LinkedIn profile, is what I'll say.
Okay. So I'm now going to move on to the second question. Would anything on a LinkedIn profile be considered as red flags amongst employers?
There certainly is. The more so related to LinkedIn, and I'll talk about not related to. I'll give two examples. The first is LinkedIn is a professional network. Okay, so everything that is on your LinkedIn profile, any interaction, any activity that you are doing on LinkedIn, absolutely needs to be professionally related. So don't have a LinkedIn photo with your cat. Don't post photos about what you had for dinner. That is very much Facebook or Weibo or whatever social media that you're using to interact with your friends. This is always going to be professionally related. So that's a big no-no, and it's it's perceived in a negative way. The second, maybe less so much to do with LinkedIn, is around tenure. Let's call it tenure. So if you are, and this is going to be evident on your CV as well, so that's why I'm saying it's not just about LinkedIn. But if you have that you've jumped around to multiple different employers within a short period of time, it does not reflect well, because HR managers, recruiters want to see, or even hiring managers, so the people that you would be working for, want to see that you have a commitment to that organisation. The best way that you can display that commitment and that success within that company is to be able to stay within the organisation for a longer period of time, unless, of course, you have a reason behind why you moved. And maybe, at least for Salesforce, I've got that example. I got tapped on the shoulder. What can I do? I was like, I have to go.
Couldn't say no.
Yeah.
This is actually a question that was asked by Kathy Lee, and I believe Kathy Lee is from Hong Kong. She says that if she's moving around, or maybe not her in particular, but if a candidate has experience in different organizations and positions, that would give a negative impression to a new potential employer, that she has no focus, or one would have no focus.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in trying different things out, particularly as you're early on in your career, and even, later on in your career where you decide to make that career change. And as you've had that longer experience within that same type of role, it actually becomes more difficult to jump out, because it's like somebody will get a CV and it's completely unrelated to the role that they're trying to go for. So, it's not perceived as a bad thing. It shows that you're figuring out what you want to do, and that you have a more broad, not an in-depth experience within a certain area, but you've got a more broader perspective of different types of the business. So in fact, it could actually work in your favour as well.
As long as you have a reason to explain why you may have moved from one job to another. Another one that's kind of opposite from red flags, what are good flags to raise? So Asmang asked what document to upload to the LinkedIn profile to give a bit more.
Yeah, certainly. So LinkedIn, as of about a year or two ago, we acquired a company that's called SlideShare. And so on SlideShare, you can, as, what was the name, sorry? As referred to in the question, is you can upload documents, and you can upload videos, and you can upload, PDFs, pictures, etc., onto your LinkedIn profile, and actually put them underneath the job that you worked in when you did that piece of work, or even, you know, the university that you were studying at when you did that piece of work, or the project, for example, there too. To answer the question, what are the type of documents, I would we suggest put up the documents that you're most proud of and that are best representing of what you did within that role. So an example might be we are sitting in an absolutely amazing, right now, in this absolutely amazingly designed, architecturally designed building. So the individual that works for the architecture firm that designed this, a great example is to actually take a photo of this, upload it to their LinkedIn profile, and they've got visual evidence of the work that they're working on. So again, as long as it's related to what you do and what the role's about, then there's no harm in uploading some of those documents there too.
Okay. We've encouraged students in the course to upload self-introduction videos, and I wonder if that's something that would be useful to upload to a LinkedIn profile, like just to do a self-introduction video of themselves.
Yeah.
Is that common? Do people do that?
People do that, absolutely, and I would say that not enough people do it. Just think about how you can differentiate yourself, and that is absolutely an example in how to do that. So, in fact, as you were explaining that, it made me recall within LinkedIn, we have like what's called a support team who's helping us to be able to set up meetings or find potential new clients that we can work with in terms of like to move their recruitment strategy onto LinkedIn. And a really innovative way that one of the girls came up with was to do a video. And so she sent a video out in an email to what we call these prospects or potential clients saying, you know, this is what we do, this is what we're all about, would love to have a conversation. And the response rates were so high compared to just a typical email. So in the same capacity, she was doing something different. And so doing something different, providing that self-introduction and giving a warmer feel to your LinkedIn profile, I think it's fantastic.
I hope you guys are taking notes. I'll move on to the next question. Okay, so we have students from all over the world and across many different fields in the course, as I mentioned to you. Mm-hmm. So how do LinkedIn profiles change across industries, and do you actually see any differences across the industries?
Yeah, so, and I guess this kind of refers to the architect example there. So the biggest difference is what we see is around what's being uploaded, particularly with those more visuals. So the example with an architecture firm, they're going to upload, say, a building. The work, perhaps, of a professor might actually be a publication that they upload there, and they can also include within the publication of their LinkedIn, the publication section of their LinkedIn profile, some of the dissertations or the theses that they're working on. So again, for many of you who are still in university, start to consider putting some of those publications or thesis or extra work that you're doing, those projects that you're proud of, because that's the type of information that we could be putting onto a LinkedIn profile that's over and above.
Have you seen something outstanding or something a bit unique that somebody has put
on a LinkedIn profile? There's, let me just think. We partner with an individual based in Singapore who helps around developing LinkedIn profiles and how you can best utilize LinkedIn. So he has, again, like a wealth of videos, a wealth of slides, and just, again, that visual backup for him to be able to really articulate the value of LinkedIn. So that would be my best example. It's not that wild, but I did come across that LinkedIn profile. I was like, wow, that's really solid, and it reflects really well on them.
So I view it kind of like a one-stop shop, where once somebody Googles you, maybe you've given them what your experience, what you've done, and also visuals and documentation to show for.
Yeah.
So it's even better than a Google search.
Yeah, it is. So think about a LinkedIn profile is really an opportunity for you to tell your story, a story about yourself as a professional. And what you put up on there is kind of up to you, but however you feel comfortable in displaying it. So, and I'll talk a little bit about actually, so the summary section of LinkedIn. So, a LinkedIn profile. So right at the top there is a summary where you can just encapsulate, as much information or kind of like as much in depth about who you are and who you aspire to be. So feel free to have a look at my LinkedIn profile, because it's a little bit, my summary is a little bit out there, and it's kind of like, it talks about my sales and professional experience, but it also talks about my aspirations and my passions even outside of work as well. So again, thinking a LinkedIn profile is not just you as an individual or a student. We can start to think about where your passions lie, and also be able to utilise that as a way to connect more deeply with people that have similar passions.
That's a lead into a new question that's popped up. I believe it's also from Asmeng. My circle is limited only to my career and job, which I want to change.
Mm-hmm.
How do I change my circle and find new connections in a new field?
Okay, so I'll relate this question more so back to our experience of moving to Hong Kong. So when I moved to Hong Kong, I knew absolutely nobody except for my colleagues. So it's pretty daunting. At least Hong Kong is very open and there's a lot of people that are willing to make new friends. And so I had that very limited set of people in the same capacity as the question asked here. You're kind of stuck within that network of who you know. So the way to get out there, I would say it's very beneficial to do the offline networking. So think about the job or the industry that you want to get in, and the associations that are connected with that job or industry. So the example that I have here within Hong Kong is, again, it can be interest related as well, is the Women's Foundation. So the Women's Foundation host a number of events, and I was able to find out about them. I was searching, okay, there must be some women in business stuff, because I was doing something like that in Australia. This is a great way to meet new people. So I found that, and then can now attend some of their events and as an offshoot network and expand to be able to meet new people there too. So associations are the best way. Also think about if we're focusing in mainly just around your career and your job, certainly there would be people that you would know from university or from high school, or those are still connections that you can absolutely leverage. Your alumni connections, so think about those people and how you can benefit from having that connection with them too.
Okay, hope that answered your question, Asmeng. I'm going to now go to Keen, who is Hong Kong Chinese but currently living in Australia. Keen wants to know how a candidate could increase their competitiveness when applying for a job overseas. So I suppose you're an Australia expert, so yeah. I'll go ahead and let you answer that.
So I'm not an expert in the visa situation within Australia or anywhere around the world, but I will speak a little bit to that. So, the best thing that you can do is think about the skills that are lacking within the country, and how the skills that you have, or the skills that you don't have but you can gain, are going to be able to allow you to land that job that is in very high demand, but the supply is very low. So specifically Keen within Australia, my suggestion is to go onto the Government of Australia website, and it does provide a list of those professions or those skill sets that are in high demand. So that aside, that's more on the technical side of things that I'm, again, no expert on. But networking is the number one way, I believe, to be able to land a job, particularly in a new country. So networking, again, can be offline in the same capacity as, signing up with associations or attending events or being part of industry groups that are aligned with where you want to be. It might also be online as well. So searching out for people, that are in organisations that you want to work for, or in jobs that particularly are of interest to you, and just be frank with them. This is my situation. I'd love to have a conversation with somebody of your background, just to gain some knowledge or some expertise or some mentorship in order to be able to stay within the country and land a job like this. So those are my biggest recommendations: is understand what the skills are lacking, and if that works or if that doesn't work, still emphasize on that networking, both offline and online.
Do you actually receive messages from people asking, like, hey, how do I work in Hong Kong? I see you, but you're working in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I don't personally, but you reminded me of my boyfriend. So my boyfriend is from Denmark. In fact, we met in China, which is all very confusing. Have been in Australia, Hong Kong, so very international, and I don't know how it happened, but it did. But the Danish community is very tight. very, very, very tight. But I think there's only like 4 million people that live in Denmark or something. So very frequently when he was living in Australia, he would get Danes writing to him saying, I'd love to just gain some knowledge. You know, you're living there, you're a Danish citizen. What kind of tips could you provide? So that's another suggestion, you know, reach out to those individuals that are of the same nationality as yourself, because you have that instant connection there too.
I have a question that's again from Kathy Lee. How much of a profile is searchable if actively seeking an opportunity is in the body? Can recruiters automatically search for it?
Yeah, Kathy, everything that's on a LinkedIn profile is searchable. So I'll give you the example with Kate. So my friend Kate, the communications manager that got that interview literally within a day, she updated on her LinkedIn profile, actively seeking opportunities or something along those lines. So what, I can't remember the name of the company, I probably shouldn't say it, but anyway, what they did is using this tool, they were actually able to save the search criteria that allowed them to receive that alert when somebody updated their profile. So they'd have communication manager with 1 to 2 years of experience based in Sydney with the phrase actively looking for a job. As soon as you update your profile, you'll be in an alert and a search result and they can message you. So yes.
Go for it, Kathy.
Yeah, do it, definitely.
Put actively seeking an opportunity in your LinkedIn profile now, but go ahead and go through the course materials first.
Yeah, you've got to have a LinkedIn profile to back it up beforehand.
Okay.
Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.